The marble floors of the Castellano estate gleamed under the afternoon sun, so polished that Maria Santos could see her own exhausted reflection staring back at her. She pushed the cleaning cart down the corridor, her shoulders aching from 4 hours of scrubbing bathrooms that were already spotless. Rich people's dirt was different somehow, invisible but expected to be eliminated anyway. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She ignored it. Probably another bill collector. They'd have to wait until Friday when she got paid from her night shift at the diner. Maria, Constance, the head housekeeper, appeared from around the corner, her thin face pinched with disapproval. The Castellanos are having their garden party in 2 hours. Mrs. Castellano wants every window on the south side re-cleaned. She says there are streaks. There were no streaks. Maria had cleaned those windows yesterday, but she nodded anyway. Yes, ma'am. And Maria? Constance's voice dropped. Stay invisible today. Important guests. The kind who don't want to see the help. Maria had been invisible her whole life. She could manage a few more hours. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. The Castellano estate sat in Lincoln Park, a massive stone mansion that screamed old money and older secrets. Maria had been cleaning here for 3 months, ever since she'd fled Miami with her 6-year-old daughter Sophia and whatever fit in 2 suitcases. The pay was decent, the family barely noticed her, and most importantly, no one asked questions about why a 32-year-old woman with a nursing degree was scrubbing toilets. She knew why. Her ex-husband Marco knew why. The restraining order knew why. But Chicago didn't know, and Maria intended to keep it that way. She was halfway through the south corridor windows when she heard it. A child's voice, high and panicked, echoing from somewhere outside. No, stop it. Give it back. Maria froze, her cleaning cloth suspended mid-wipe. That wasn't right. Children didn't sound like that at fancy garden parties. Not unless something was very wrong. She moved to the window and looked down at the garden below. The Castellano garden was a masterpiece of landscaping, with stone pathways winding through perfectly manicured hedges and flower beds that probably cost more than Maria's annual salary. Today, it was filled with Chicago's elite. Women in designer dresses clutching champagne flutes, men in expensive suits discussing business deals, waiters circulating with silver trays of hors d'oeuvres that Maria couldn't pronounce. And there, near the koi pond, a small crowd had gathered. Maria's nursing instincts kicked in before her common sense could stop her. She abandoned her cart and hurried down the servants' staircase, her heart hammering against her ribs. By the time she reached the garden, she could hear the laughter. Not the kind of laughter that comes from joy. The cruel kind. The kind that makes your stomach turn. Aw, is the little cripple gonna cry? Bet you can't even reach it. What's wrong? Cat got your tongue? Oh wait, you're just a baby who can't handle a joke. Maria pushed through the crowd of well-dressed onlookers. None of them were intervening. They were just watching, some with amusement, others with that particular discomfort rich people get when confronted with something unpleasant they'd rather ignore. Then she saw him. A boy maybe 12 years old, sat in a wheelchair near the edge of the koi pond. He had dark hair that fell across his forehead, olive skin, and eyes that were trying very hard not to cry. His hands gripped the arms of his wheelchair so tightly his knuckles had gone white. 3 teenage boys, probably 16 or 17, stood around him. One of them held a book above his head, keeping it just out of reach. Another had positioned himself behind the wheelchair, occasionally giving it small shoves that made the boy flinch. Come on, Dante, the tallest one sneered. Just ask nicely. Say, please, may I have my book back? The boy in the wheelchair, Dante, opened his mouth but no words came out. His breathing had gone rapid and shallow. Maria recognized a panic attack when she saw one. He can't even talk. The third boy laughed. What kind of Rossi can't even talk? Your dad must be so embarrassed. That's when Maria stepped forward. Give him the book. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the laughter like a knife. Every head turned toward her. The 3 teenage boys stared at her with confusion and contempt. A maid. How dare a maid speak to them? Excuse me? The tall one said, his voice dripping with privilege. Who the hell are you? I'm someone telling you to give him the book. Now. The crowd had gone silent. Maria could feel dozens of eyes on her back. She knew she was making a mistake. Knew she should turn around, go back to her windows, keep her head down and her mouth shut. But she'd spent 2 years watching her daughter flinch every time a door opened too quickly. 2 years rebuilding what Marco had broken. She knew what cruelty looked like, and she'd promised herself she'd never stand by and let it happen again. Not even to a stranger. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work. So, if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. Do you know who my father is? The tall boy stepped closer, his breath smelling like expensive cologne and entitlement. He owns half the buildings in this city. You're just some cleaning lady. You don't tell me what to do. Then I'll take it myself. Maria moved fast, years of dealing with aggressive patients in the ER making her quick and confident. She grabbed the book from the boy's hand before he could react. The crowd gasped. Actual gasps, like she'd committed murder instead of retrieving a child's property. You bitch! The boy lunged forward, but Maria was already moving, stepping between him and the wheelchair. Back up, she said quietly. Now. Something in her voice must have convinced him. Or maybe it was the way she stood, feet planted, shoulders back, with the look of someone who dealt with much worse than entitled teenagers. He backed up, his face flushed with humiliation. You're going to regret this, he hissed. My father will have you fired. He'll make sure you never work in this city again. Then I guess I'll find work in another city. Maria turned her back on him, which was either brave or stupid, and knelt down beside the wheelchair. Up close, she could see the boy's face more clearly. He was beautiful in that way some children are, with long eyelashes and delicate features, but his eyes held something no child's eyes should hold. Fear, deep and old and familiar. Hey, Maria said softly. I'm Maria. You okay? The boy, Dante, stared at her like she was speaking a foreign language. His breathing was still too fast, his hands still trembling. Maria recognized all the signs. This wasn't just about the book. This was about something bigger, something that had left scars deeper than skin. It's okay, she continued, her voice dropping into that calm, soothing tone she used to use with pediatric patients. They're gone. You're safe. Can you breathe with me? In through your nose, out through your mouth. Like this, she demonstrated, making her breathing visible and exaggerated. Slowly, hesitantly, Dante tried to match her rhythm. It took 3 full minutes, but eventually, his breathing evened out. The panic faded from his eyes, replaced by something else. Confusion, wonder, like he couldn't quite believe what had just happened. Maria held out the book. It was Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, worn and well-loved, with a bookmark about halfway through. Good choice, Maria said. This is my daughter's favorite. She says it's the one, where everything changes. Dante took the book with shaking hands. He opened his mouth again, and this time, a sound came out, quiet and rough, like he wasn't used to using his voice. Thank you. The words were so soft Maria almost missed them, but she caught them, and her heart cracked a little. You're welcome, sweetheart. What is the meaning of this? The voice boomed across the garden like thunder. Maria stood up quickly, her heart sinking. She knew that tone. Authority, power, rage. A woman stormed toward them, her designer dress billowing behind her like a war banner. Mrs. Castellano, Maria's employer. Her face was twisted with fury, her diamond earrings catching the sunlight like weapons. You! Mrs. Castellano pointed at Maria, her finger trembling with anger. How dare you cause a scene at my party? How dare you put your hands on a guest? I was just helping. Helping? You assaulted Senator Morrison's son. In front of everyone! He was bullying a child. That's not your concern. You're here to clean, not to interfere with guests. Mrs. Castellano's voice rose with each word. You've embarrassed me. You've embarrassed this family. You're fired. Get your things and get out. The words hit Maria like a punch to the gut. Fired. She couldn't be fired. She needed this job. The rent was due next week. Sophia needed new shoes. Her mother's medication cost $300 a month. Please, Maria heard herself say, hating how desperate she sounded. Please, Mrs. Castellano. Security. Mrs. Castellano turned away, dismissing her like garbage. Escort this woman off the property. Now. 2 security guards appeared, their faces apologetic but firm. One of them touched Maria's elbow. Ma'am, please come with us. Maria looked back at Dante. The boy was watching her with wide eyes, his hands clutching the book to his chest. She tried to smile, to show him it was okay, that standing up for people was worth the cost. But inside, she was screaming. The guards led her back through the garden. The crowd parted like she was contagious. Maria kept her head up, refused to cry, refused to give them the satisfaction. But she could hear the whispers following her. Can you believe that? The audacity. Poor Mrs. Castellano. That's what happens when you hire people like that. People like that. People like her. Poor people. Desperate people. People who had the nerve to think they mattered. Maria collected her cleaning supplies from the corridor and her purse from the servant's locker room. The whole process took 10 minutes. 10 minutes to erase 3 months of work. As she walked toward the service exit, she passed Constance in the hallway. The head housekeeper's face was unreadable. "I told you to stay invisible," Constance said quietly. "I know. Was it worth it?" Maria thought about Dante's face. The relief in his eyes when the bullies backed off. The way his breathing had slowed when she helped him. The softness in his voice when he'd thanked her. "Yes," Maria said. "It was." She walked out into the Chicago afternoon, unemployed for the first time in 6 months. Her phone was buzzing again. More bills, more problems, more impossible choices between groceries and electricity. But all she could think about was a 12-year-old boy in a wheelchair, and the way everyone had just stood by and watched him suffer. Maria had spent 32 years learning to keep her head down. To survive, to not make waves. But some things were worth drowning for. That night, Maria sat at her tiny kitchen table in her even tinier apartment, staring at her laptop screen. The job search websites all blurred together. Housekeeping positions, waitressing gigs, anything that paid cash and didn't ask too many questions. "Mama?" Sophia appeared in the doorway, her dark curls messy from sleep. She was wearing the Elsa pajamas that were getting too small, but Maria couldn't afford to replace them yet. Or couldn't, past tense, because now she had no job at all. "What are you doing up, mija?" Maria closed the laptop and opened her arms. Sophia climbed into her lap, small and warm and trusting. "Bad dream. Want to talk about it?" Sophia shook her head against Maria's chest. They sat like that for a while, just breathing together. Maria wondered, not for the first time, what she'd done to deserve this child. This perfect, brave little person who'd been through hell and still woke up smiling most mornings. "Mama?" Sophia's voice was muffled. "Why do people be mean?" The question hit harder than it should have. Maria thought about the teenagers in the garden, the crowd watching, Mrs. Castellano's fury, the whispers. "I don't know, baby. Maybe because they're scared, or hurting, or maybe they just never learned better." "Were you mean today?" Maria pulled back so she could see Sophia's face. "Why would you think that? Abuela said you got fired for yelling at people." Of course. Maria's mother, with her weak heart and strong opinions, never could keep quiet about anything. "I didn't yell. I helped a boy who was being picked on." Sophia's eyes went wide. "Like when kids were mean to me at my old school?" "Yeah, mija. Like that. And they fired you for being nice?" Maria's throat tightened. How do you explain to a 6-year-old that the world doesn't reward kindness? That sometimes doing the right thing costs everything? "It's complicated, baby. That's what grown-ups say when they don't want to tell the truth." Maria laughed despite everything. "You're too smart for your own good. Abuela says I get it from you." They sat in silence for another moment. Through the thin walls, Maria could hear the neighbors arguing in Spanish. Outside, sirens wailed past. This apartment was in a rough neighborhood, but it was all she could afford. Even with 2 jobs. Now she had 0 jobs. "Mama?" Sophia's voice had gone very small. "Are we going to be okay?" It was the same question Sophia had asked in the Miami and women's shelter 2 years ago, after Maria finally found the courage to leave Marco. After the broken ribs had healed but the fear hadn't. Maria had promised then that they would be okay, that she would keep them safe, that nothing bad would ever happen again. She'd lied then, and she was about to lie now. "Yes, mija. We're going to be just fine." Sophia nodded against her chest, believing her because children have to believe their mothers, because the alternative is too terrifying. "Can I sleep with you tonight?" "Always." Maria carried her daughter to the bedroom, tucked her into the double bed they shared, and lay down beside her. Sophia fell asleep within minutes, her breathing soft and even. Maria stared at the ceiling, watching shadows from the streetlights play across the cracked plaster, and tried not to calculate how many days they had before everything fell apart. 3 weeks. That's how long her savings would last if she was very, very careful. 3 weeks to find a new job, pay rent, keep the lights on, buy groceries, and afford her mother's medication. She thought about calling her sister in Miami, but Anna had 3 kids of her own and a husband who barely made enough to feed them all. She thought about applying for assistance, but that would create a paper trail. Records. Something Marco could find. No. She was on her own. Like always. Maria closed her eyes and tried to sleep, but all she could see was Dante's face. The way he'd looked at her like she was some kind of hero. Heroes didn't get fired. Heroes didn't lie to their daughters. Heroes didn't cry themselves to sleep in crappy apartments while bill collectors called. But maybe, just maybe, heroes kept going anyway. The next morning arrived too early and too bright. Maria dropped Sophia at school, kissed her mother's forehead at the nursing home where she'd lived since her stroke, and spent 6 hours walking from restaurant to restaurant, hotel to hotel, begging for work. Most places took one look at her, at the desperation she couldn't quite hide, and said they'd keep her resume on file, which was code for "don't hold your breath." By 3 o'clock, Maria's feet were screaming and her pride was in tatters. She stopped at a coffee shop, bought the cheapest thing on the menu with quarters from her car's cup holder, and tried not to think about how pathetic she'd become. She was scrolling through her phone, looking for cheaper apartments she couldn't afford anyway, when she noticed people staring at her. Not subtle glances, full-on stares. The barista was whispering to her coworker, both of them looking at Maria and then at a phone screen. Other customers were doing the same thing. Maria's blood went cold. Had Marco found her? Had someone recognized her? Was there a picture circulating? "Excuse me." A young woman approached her table nervously. "Are you the maid from the video?" "What video?" The woman held out her phone. On the screen, a video was playing. It took Maria a second to register what she was seeing. It was her. Yesterday, at the Castellano estate. Someone had filmed the entire confrontation in the garden. The video showed everything. The teenagers bullying Dante, Maria intervening, her grabbing the book, her kneeling beside the wheelchair and calming Dante down, Mrs. Castellano firing her. But what made Maria's stomach drop was the caption, "Brave maid stands up to rich bullies and loses her job. This is what real courage looks like." The video had 7 million views. "Oh no," Maria whispered. "No, no, no. You're amazing," the woman said, her eyes shining with admiration. "What you did was so brave. Is there a GoFundMe or something? I want to help." More people were approaching now, phones out, asking questions. Someone was calling her a hero. Someone else was taking her picture. Maria stood up so fast her chair fell backward. "I have to go." She ran out of the coffee shop, leaving her half-finished coffee behind. Her hands shook as she got into her car and locked the doors. 7 million views. 7 million people had watched her face, heard her voice, knew who she was. Marco would see this. It was only a matter of time. Maria's phone buzzed. A text from a number she didn't recognize. "We need to talk. About Dante. About your safety. V." Then another. "I'm waiting in the black car across the street. Please." 5 minutes. Maria looked up. Sure enough, a sleek black Mercedes was parked across from the coffee shop. She couldn't see through the tinted windows, but she knew someone was watching. Every instinct screamed at her to drive away. Disappear. Change her name again. Take Sophia and run. But she was so tired of running. And something about the text, the way it mentioned Dante's name, made her pause. Against her better judgment, Maria got out of her car and walked toward the Mercedes. The back door opened before she reached it. "Miss Santos," a man's voice said from inside. "Please, get in. We have much to discuss." Maria hesitated on the curb, her heart hammering, her mind screaming danger. Then she thought about Dante's eyes, the relief on his face when she'd helped him, and she got in the car. The interior of the Mercedes smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Maria's eyes adjusted to the dim light, and she found herself sitting across from a man who looked like he'd stepped out of a Renaissance painting. He was maybe 40, with dark hair graying at the temples, sharp cheekbones, and eyes that assessed her with the precision of a jeweler examining a diamond. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Maria's car, and his hands, resting casually on his knee, bore a single ring, gold, heavy, with some kind of crest she couldn't quite make out. "Miss Santos," he said, his voice smooth and controlled. "My name is Vincent Calabrese. I work for Dante's father." Maria's mouth went dry. "Is Dante okay?" Something flickered across Vincent's face. Approval, maybe, or surprise that her. First question was about the boy. "Dante is fine. Better than fine, actually. He hasn't stopped talking about you. Well, talking is generous. He wrote 3 pages about you in his journal. His therapist says it's the most he's communicated in months." "That's good," Maria said carefully. "But I don't understand why I'm here." Vincent pulled out a tablet and tapped the screen. The viral video began playing. Maria watched herself on screen, watched the confrontation play out again. When it ended, Vincent's expression had hardened. 7.3 million views as of 20 minutes ago. It's been shared by news outlets, celebrities, politicians. You're trending on 3 different platforms. The mayor's office called it inspirational. A senator wants to give you a civilian courage award. I don't want an award. I just want to be left alone. Unfortunately, Miss Santos, that's no longer an option. Vincent swiped to another screen. This one showed social media posts, dozens of them. Screenshots of people discussing her, analyzing the video, finding her identity. These people think you're a hero, Vincent continued. But there are others who see something different. The Castellano family is claiming you assaulted a minor. Senator Morrison's son's lawyer is threatening to press charges. And then there are the comments from people who think you're seeking attention, looking for money, playing the race card. Maria's hands clenched in her lap. I didn't ask for any of this. I know, but we need to discuss the real problem. Vincent leaned forward. Dante's father is not a public figure. He values privacy above almost everything else. The video shows Dante's face clearly. His location. The fact that he's vulnerable. The weight of Vincent's words settled over Maria like a shroud. Vulnerable to what? To people who would use a child to get to his father. Vincent's eyes held hers. Marco Rossi has enemies, Miss Santos. Powerful ones. Dangerous ones. And you just showed them exactly where to find his son. Maria's stomach dropped. Rossi? As in Rossi Construction? The shipping company? Among other things, yes. The way Vincent said it made Maria's blood run cold. She'd been in Chicago long enough to hear the rumors. The Rossi family wasn't just wealthy. They were connected. The kind of connected that made people speak in whispers and look over their shoulders. You're saying Dante's father is... She couldn't finish the sentence. I'm saying that Marco Rossi is a businessman who takes security very seriously. And right now, because of this video, both Dante and you are in danger. Me? I'm nobody. I'm just a maid who... You're the woman who 7 million people watched defend a boy the Rossi family would kill to protect. You're famous, Miss Santos. And in our world, famous means vulnerable. Maria's mind raced. So what? You want me to disappear? I can do that. I'm good at disappearing. Vincent's expression suggested he knew more about her than she'd like. We've already looked into your situation. Miami. The restraining order. Your ex-husband's criminal record. The women's shelter. The name change. Maria's hands started shaking. How did you? It's my job to know these things. And I'll be honest with you, Miss Santos. Your ex-husband saw the video 4 hours ago. He's already on a plane to Chicago. The world tilted. Maria grabbed the door handle. I need to get my daughter. I need to... Sophia is safe. We have someone watching her school. Discreetly. You have people watching my daughter? Maria's voice rose to a near shout. You can't just... We can. And we will. Because Marco Delgado is not the only threat you're facing right now. Vincent pulled up another screen. This one showed a series of threatening messages. Death threats. Rape threats. Promises of violence so graphic that Maria had to look away. These came in over the last 12 hours, Vincent said quietly. Most are from idiots online who won't do anything. But our analysts flagged 3 as credible. One from a known associate of the Morrison family. One from someone using the same IP address as a violent offender released from prison last month. And one from Miami, from your ex-husband's brother. Maria couldn't breathe. This wasn't happening. She'd just tried to help a kid, that's all. Just tried to do the right thing for once in her miserable life. What do you want from me? She whispered. Mr. Rossi wants to offer you protection. His estate has security that makes the White House look accessible. You and your daughter would be safe there. Your mother, too, if you want. We can move her from the nursing home to a private facility on the grounds with 24-hour medical care. It sounded too good to be true. Which meant it absolutely was. In exchange for what? Vincent smiled slightly. You're smart to ask. In exchange, you stay out of sight for a while. Let the media frenzy die down. We'll handle the legal issues with the Castellanos and the Morrisons. We'll deal with your ex-husband. And... He paused. Dante would like you to stay. He's asking for you. He's 12. He doesn't know what he's asking for. He's 12 and he's been through more than most adults. His mother died in a car accident 3 years ago. The same accident that put him in that wheelchair. He hasn't had a full conversation with anyone outside his immediate family since. Until yesterday, when he talked to you. Maria closed her eyes. She thought of Sophia at school, vulnerable and unprotected. She thought of her mother at the nursing home, fragile and dependent. She thought of Marco Delgado getting off a plane somewhere in Chicago, probably drunk, definitely angry, absolutely dangerous. "How long?" she asked. "A few weeks, maybe a month, until things calm down." "And if I say no?" Vincent's expression was gentle but honest. "Then we'll still try to protect you. But it will be harder, and you'll be making it harder for us to protect Dante." The video connected you two. People who want to hurt the Rossi family now see you as a way in. Either you're under our protection, or you're a liability. It wasn't really a choice, not when Sophia was involved. "I need to get my daughter first. Already arranged. We'll pick her up from school. You can explain everything to her once you're both safe." Maria wanted to argue, wanted to scream that she didn't need saving, that she could handle this herself, that she'd survived worse. But she'd also learned the hard way that pride was a luxury she couldn't afford. "Okay," she said. "Okay, but I want to see Dante's father. I want to hear this from him directly. Of course, he's waiting at the estate." The Mercedes pulled away from the curb, smooth and silent. Maria watched the coffee shop disappear in the side mirror, along with her car, her freedom, and any illusion that she controlled her own life. "Miss Santos?" Vincent said after a few minutes of silence. "Maria. Just Maria." "Maria, then. I want you to understand something. Mr. Rossi doesn't make offers like this lightly. The fact that he's opening his home to you and your family, it means something. Dante has been lost since his mother died. What you did yesterday, seeing him, actually seeing him, it woke something up in that boy. You gave him hope. I just gave him back his book. You gave him back his dignity. There's a difference." Maria didn't know what to say to that, so she said nothing. She watched Chicago pass by outside the tinted windows, the city looking different somehow, dangerous, full of hidden threats and invisible watchers. After 30 minutes, the car turned onto a private drive. Trees lined both sides, thick enough to block the view of what lay beyond. Maria counted 3 security checkpoints, each one more sophisticated than the last. Cameras, armed guards, technology she couldn't even identify. Then the trees cleared, and Maria saw the estate. It wasn't a house, it was a compound. The main building was stone and glass, modern but somehow timeless, sprawling across manicured grounds that looked like they belonged in a magazine. Gardens, fountains, what looked like a guest house that was bigger than most people's real houses. "Oh my God," Maria whispered. "The Rossi family has lived in Chicago for 4 generations, Vincent said. "This estate has been in the family for 70 years. The car stopped in front of the main entrance. The door opened before Maria could reach for the handle. A man in a dark suit stood there, his expression neutral and professional. "Miss Santos, welcome. Mr. Rossi is waiting in his study." Maria climbed out on shaking legs. The afternoon sun was warm on her skin, but she felt cold all over. This was a mistake. She didn't belong here. She belonged in her crappy apartment with her crappy job and her simple, invisible life. But it was too late for that now. Vincent led her through the entrance into a foyer that looked like something from a movie. Marble floors. A staircase that curved upward like a sculpture. Artwork on the walls that was probably worth more than Maria would make in her entire life. This way. They walked down a corridor, past rooms Maria glimpsed but didn't fully register. A library. A formal dining room. Something that looked like a home theater. The wealth was suffocating. Vincent stopped at a set of double doors. "He's inside. Take your time. There's nothing to be afraid of." That was easy for him to say. He belonged in this world. Maria took a deep breath and pushed open the doors. The study was smaller than she'd expected. Cozy. Almost. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined 3 walls. A desk sat by the window, covered in papers and what looked like blueprints. And in a leather chair near the fireplace sat a man who made Vincent look ordinary. Marco Rossi stood as she entered. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with the kind of build that suggested he could be dangerous if he wanted to be. His hair was dark, his jaw sharp, his eyes an unusual shade of gray-green that seemed to see straight through her. But what struck Maria most was his face. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days, and when he looked at her, his expression was complicated, grateful, wary, desperate. "Miss Santos," he said, his voice deeper than she'd expected. "Thank you for coming. I didn't really have a choice." "No, I suppose you didn't." He gestured to a chair across from his. Please, sit. Maria sat, her back straight, her hands folded in her lap. She'd learned in the ER that when you were scared, you pretended to be confident until confidence became real. Marco sat down slowly, like his bones hurt. I want to start by apologizing. For the video, for what it's cost you. If I could undo it, I would. It wasn't your fault. I chose to help Dante. Yes, you did. When no one else would. His jaw tightened. I was there, Miss Santos. In the house. I saw everything from an upstairs window. I saw those boys tormenting my son. I saw the crowd watching. And I saw you, a complete stranger, risk your livelihood to defend him. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Any decent person would have done the same. But they didn't. There were 60 people in that garden. Wealthy people, powerful people, people who claimed to care about children and charity and doing good in the world, and every single one of them did nothing. He leaned forward. Do you know what that teaches a 12-year-old boy? That he doesn't matter, that his pain is entertaining, that he's alone. Maria's throat tightened. She did know. She'd watched Sophia learn those same lessons in Miami before they'd escaped. How is he? She asked quietly. Marco's expression softened. Better. He wants to meet you. Properly this time. Without the chaos. Vincent said I'd be staying here. With my daughter and mother. If you agree. I know it's asking a lot. You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. But the truth is, I need your help, and you need my protection. The video has made both of you targets. Vincent explained. My ex-husband. The threats online. The legal issues. All of which I can handle. My lawyers are already dealing with the Castellanos and the Morrisons. Your ex-husband will be intercepted before he gets anywhere near you or Sophia. The online threats are being traced and dealt with. But I can only do these things if you're here, where I can keep you safe. It all sounded so reasonable, so logical. But Maria had learned that men who seemed reasonable were often the most dangerous. What do you really want from me? She asked. Marco was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was raw with honesty. I want you to do for Dante what you did in that garden. See him, talk to him, treat him like he matters. He's been dying slowly since his mother left us, and I don't know how to bring him back. But you did. In 5 minutes, you did what 3 years of therapy couldn't do. I'm not a therapist. I'm not even a nurse anymore. You're someone who cares. Someone who sees people, not problems. Marco stood and walked to the window, his hands in his pockets. Dante asked about you last night. Actually asked, using his words. He wanted to know if the nice lady was okay, if she got in trouble because of him, if he'd ever see you again. Maria's chest ached. You're using him to manipulate me. Yes, Marco said simply, turning to face her. I am, because I'm desperate. Because I'll do anything, say anything, promise anything to keep my son from disappearing completely. So yes, I'm using him. But I'm also telling you the truth. The honesty was more disarming than any lie would have been. I want to see where we'd be staying, Maria said. I want to meet the security team. I want to know who else lives here. And I want your word that when this is over, we can leave. No strings, no obligations. Of course, Vincent can show you around. And Maria? He used her first name like they were equals, which they absolutely weren't. I give you my word. On my son's life, you can leave whenever you want. But I hope you'll stay long enough to help him heal. Maria stood. I'll stay for 2 weeks. Long enough for the attention to die down. Long enough for you to handle the legal issues. But then I'm taking my family and going back to our normal life. Agreed. Marco extended his hand. Maria shook it. His grip was firm but not crushing, his skin warm, and in his eyes, she saw something that terrified her more than threats or danger or viral videos. She saw hope. Vincent gave her the tour. The main house had 12 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, a professional kitchen that made Maria want to cry, and more security features than she could count. Panic rooms, reinforced windows, cameras everywhere except the bedrooms and bathrooms, armed guards patrolling the grounds. Your rooms are on the 2nd floor, Vincent explained, leading her up the curved staircase. 3 bedrooms connected by a shared living area. You, Sophia, and your mother will have complete privacy. There's a nurse on staff who can help with your mother's care. He opened a door, and Maria stepped into luxury she'd only seen in movies. The living area had comfortable furniture, a television, shelves already stocked with books and games. Through one door, she saw a bedroom with a 4-poster bed and an ensuite bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in. Sophia's room is there, Vincent pointed. We had it prepared this afternoon. If there's anything she needs, just let us know. Maria walked into Sophia's room and almost cried. It was perfect. A white canopy bed with pink sheets, a desk for homework, toys and stuffed animals arranged carefully on shelves. Someone had even hung fairy lights around the window. How? Did you know what she'd like? We didn't. We guessed. If we guessed wrong, we'll change it. Maria ran her hand over the soft bedspread. This room was nicer than anywhere Sophia had ever lived. Nicer than the apartment they'd shared with Maria's cousins when they first fled Miami. Nicer than the women's shelter with its fluorescent lights and thin mattresses. This is too much, she whispered. This is the minimum, Vincent corrected gently. You defended one of ours. That means you're one of ours now. We take care of our own. The word ours made Maria's skin prickle. She wasn't theirs. She was nobody's. She'd fought too hard for independence to give it up now. But Sophia would love this room, and her mother would be safer here than at the nursing home where the staff was overworked and the security non-existent. When can I see my daughter? Vincent checked his watch. She should arrive in about 30 minutes. One of our people picked her up from school. We told her it was a surprise for you. She was very excited. Of course Sophia was excited. She was 6. She didn't understand danger or complications or that accepting help from dangerous men always came with strings attached. And my mother? Being transported now with full medical equipment. Our doctor will examine her this evening and adjust her care plan as needed. It was all happening too fast. Maria felt like she was being swept along by a current she couldn't fight. But maybe that was okay. Maybe just for once, she could let someone else take care of the impossible logistics of survival. I'd like to meet Dante, Maria said, before Sophia gets here. If that's okay. Vincent smiled. He'll be thrilled. Follow me. They walked down another corridor to a door covered in stickers. Harry Potter, Star Wars, National Geographic photos of animals. A handmade sign that read, Dante's room, knock please. Vincent knocked. Dante, you have a visitor. A muffled sound from inside. Vincent opened the door slowly. Dante's room was nothing like what Maria expected. It was a kid's room, messy and lived in, with posters on the walls and books scattered across the floor. A gaming system was paused on the television. By the window, Dante sat in his wheelchair, a sketchpad balanced on his lap. When he saw Maria, his whole face lit up. You came, he said, the words slow but clear. Maria's heart cracked open. She crossed the room and knelt down beside his wheelchair, the same way she had in the garden. Of course I came. How are you doing, buddy? Dante held up his sketchpad. On it, he'd drawn a picture of the garden, the koi pond, the crowd of fancy people, and in the center, a woman with dark, curly hair holding a book, standing between a boy in a wheelchair and 3 larger figures. That's us, he said, pointing. You saved me. You saved yourself. You were so brave, standing up to those boys. I was scared. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the right thing even when you're terrified. Dante studied her face carefully. Are you scared now? Maria laughed, completely terrified. Why? Because I don't know what I'm doing, because I'm in way over my head, because I'm worried I'll mess everything up. Dante nodded seriously. Me too, all the time. And just like that, Maria understood. This boy with his expensive room and his powerful father felt exactly like she did. Small, vulnerable, desperately trying to be brave enough to survive. Well, Maria said, I guess we're both in the same boat then. Maybe we can be scared together. And brave together, Dante added. And brave together, Maria agreed. The door opened behind them. Maria turned to see Marco standing there, his expression unreadable. But something in his eyes made her think he'd been listening, that he'd heard everything. Dad, Dante said, can Maria stay for dinner, please? Marco's gaze moved from his son to Maria and back again. If she'd like to. I should wait for Sophia. Bring her, Dante interrupted eagerly. I want to meet her. Does she like Harry Potter? I can show her my collection. I have all the books and the movies, and I even have a wand. The excitement in his voice was infectious. Maria found herself smiling despite everything. She loves Harry Potter. But I should warn you, she talks a lot. Like, a lot. And she'll ask you a million questions. That's okay. I like questions. Maria looked up at Marco. He nodded once, a silent permission, or maybe a thank you. Okay, Maria said. Dinner. But just dinner. Then Sophia needs to get ready for bed. She has school tomorrow. No, she doesn't, Marco said quietly. I've arranged for a tutor to come here. Both children will be homeschooled until things are safe. Maria's defenses shot back up. You can't just decide that. I can, and I have. It's temporary. Just until the media attention fades. That's not your call to make. She's my daughter. And she's in danger because you helped my son. So yes, it is my call. You can be angry about it. You can fight me on it. But at the end of the day, Sophia will be educated here, in safety, where no one can use her to get to you or to us. Maria wanted to argue, wanted to scream that he had no right to make decisions about her child, but he wasn't wrong. 2 weeks, she said again. That's all. Marco's expression suggested he didn't believe her, that he knew once you entered his world, leaving wasn't as simple as packing a suitcase, but he nodded anyway. 2 weeks. Dante looked between them, sensing the tension but not understanding it. Maria, will you read to me later? After dinner? We're at the part where Harry meets Sirius Black. And there it was, the trap she'd walked into willingly. A 12-year-old boy who'd suffered enough for 3 lifetimes, asking for something as simple and pure as a bedtime story. Yeah, buddy, Maria said softly. I'll read to you. Behind her, she heard Marco let out a breath he'd been holding, and Maria realized with a sinking feeling that 2 weeks in this place was going to feel like a lifetime. Sophia arrived exactly when Vincent said she would, bouncing through the front door with her backpack and a smile that could light up the darkness. She took one look at the mansion, at the marble floors and the grand staircase, and her eyes went as wide as saucers. Mama, is this a castle? Are we princesses now? Is there a dragon? Maria caught her daughter up in a hug, breathing in the familiar scent of cheap shampoo in elementary school. No dragons, mija, but definitely an adventure. Why are we here? The man who picked me up said it was a surprise. Maria crouched down to Sophia's level. This was the moment she had to explain without terrifying her daughter or revealing too much truth. Remember how I told you I helped a boy yesterday? The one who was being picked on? Sophia nodded eagerly. You were a hero. Well, some people saw a video of it, and now lots of people want to talk to me, and it's a little overwhelming. So this nice family invited us to stay with them for a little while, just until things calm down. Abuela is coming too. Abuela is here? Can I see her? Soon. She's resting right now. But Sophia, I need you to listen very carefully. While we're here, we need to be on our best behavior. This is a very special house with very important people. Are they rich? Very rich. Sophia's eyes somehow got even wider. Like Elsa in her ice palace rich? Maria laughed despite everything. Yeah, mija, like that. Cool. Can I explore? After dinner. Speaking of which, there's someone I want you to meet. Maria took Sophia's hand and led her toward the dining room, where Marco had said they'd eat. As they walked, Sophia's head swiveled in every direction, taking in everything with the unfiltered wonder that only children possessed. The dining room was more intimate than Maria expected. A round table set for 5. Candles. Simple plates. Someone had gone to the trouble of making it feel less formal, less intimidating. Dante was already there, his wheelchair positioned at the table. When he saw Sophia, his expression went shy. Sophia, Maria said gently, this is Dante. He's the boy I told you about. Sophia walked right up to Dante's wheelchair with zero hesitation, the way kids do before the world teaches them to be uncomfortable around differences. Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm 6. How old are you? 12, Dante said softly. Wow, you're old. Do you go to middle school? My cousin goes to middle school and she says it's really hard and there's homework all the time and… Sophia paused, noticing Dante's wheelchair for the first time. Oh, you have wheels. That's so cool. Can you do tricks? Sophia, Maria said warningly. But Dante was smiling. Sometimes. Want to see? Yes. Dante rolled back from the table, spun his wheelchair in a quick circle, then popped a small wheelie. Sophia clapped and cheered like she'd just witnessed the greatest show on earth. That was awesome. Can you teach me? I want to do wheelies. Sophia, you don't have a wheelchair. But I could get one. Just for tricks. Marco appeared in the doorway, and Maria saw the exact moment he took in the scene. His son, laughing and showing off for a 6-year-old girl who thought his wheelchair was cool instead of sad. His expression transformed. The exhaustion lifted. The hardness softened. He looked like a father. Just a father, watching his kid be happy. "I see introductions have been made," Marco said, his voice warm. Sophia whirled around. "Are you Dante's dad? You have the same eyes. Do you live in this castle too? Is there really no dragon? Because Mama said no, but I want to make sure." Marco actually laughed. "No dragon. Sorry to disappoint. That's okay. Castles are still cool without dragons." Sophia climbed into a chair next to Dante. "Can we be friends? I don't have many friends here yet, because we just moved from Florida and everyone at my dis already has friend groups, and it's hard to break in when you're the new kid, you know?" Dante nodded seriously. "I know. I hate being new." "Right? It's the worst! But you seem nice. Do you like Harry Potter? Mama says you do. I'm only on the first book because I'm still learning big words, but I really like Hermione. She's smart and brave, and she doesn't care what boys think." "Hermione's my favorite too," Dante said, his words getting easier, more confident. And just like that, they were chattering away like they'd known each other for years. Maria watched, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. Marco moved beside her. "Your daughter is remarkable. She doesn't know how to be fake. It's a blessing and a curse. It's exactly what Dante needs. Someone who doesn't treat him like he's fragile." They stood in silence, watching their children connect with an ease that adults could never manage. Sophia was explaining her elaborate theory about whether Dumbledore knew everything all along or was just really good at guessing. Dante was listening intently, nodding and adding his own thoughts in words that came smoother with each sentence. "Thank you," Marco said quietly, "for staying, for bringing her, for giving him this." Maria wanted to say something sharp, something to maintain her walls, but watching Sophia make Dante smile, watching this broken boy come alive, all she could manage was, "You're welcome." Dinner was simple. Pasta, salad, garlic bread. Someone had figured out that fancy food would make this whole thing feel more transactional, more like a business arrangement. This felt like family, and that was somehow more dangerous than any contract could be. Sophia talked nonstop, asking questions about everything. The house, the grounds, whether there were horses. No, whether they could get horses. Probably not. Whether Dante had ever been in a helicopter. Yes. Whether they could go in a helicopter. Sophia's eyes lit up at Marco's, "Maybe. Someday." Dante answered patiently, his voice getting stronger with each response. Maria caught Marco watching his son with an expression of wonder and grief, like he was seeing something he thought he'd lost forever. After dinner, true to her promise, Maria took Dante to his room while Sophia settled in with her grandmother, who'd arrived during the meal and was delighted with her new accommodations. Dante's room was messier than before. Books spread across the bed, drawings scattered on the floor. This was a lived-in space, a real kid's room, not the sterile perfection of the guest suite. "Where are we in the story?" Maria asked, settling into a chair beside his bed. Dante wheeled over to his bookshelf and grabbed a worn copy of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, the same book from the garden. He handed it to her, and she noticed the bookmark was exactly where it had been yesterday. "You haven't read ahead? I wanted to wait for you." Something about that simple statement made Maria's throat tight. She opened the book and began to read. Dante settled back in his wheelchair, his eyes fixed on her face, drinking in every word. They read for 45 minutes, Harry discovering the truth about Sirius Black, the Dementors, the Patronus charm, magic and hope, and the idea that sometimes the scariest things aren't what they seem. When Maria finally closed the book, Dante was yawning but smiling. "More tomorrow?" he asked. "More tomorrow," Maria promised. "Maria?" His voice was small. "Are you going to leave in 2 weeks? Like you told Dad?" Maria paused. She'd learned never to lie to children. They always knew. But she also knew the truth was complicated. "I don't know yet, buddy. But I promise I won't disappear without saying goodbye. Okay?" Dante nodded, but something in his eyes suggested he'd heard this before. That people always said goodbye eventually. Marco was waiting in the hallway when she emerged. He'd loosened his tie, rolled up his sleeves. He looked younger, more human. "He's asleep?" "Almost. You should go say goodnight." Marco's jaw tightened. "He doesn't like me hovering. He's 12. He's not supposed to like anyone hovering, but he still needs to know you're there." Marco studied her for a long moment. "You're good at this, being a mother. I've had practice. Still. He moved toward Dante's door, then paused. Maria, thank you. Again. For today. For tonight. For everything. You keep thanking me. It's getting weird. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Get used to it. I'm Italian. We thank people excessively. It's genetic. He disappeared into Dante's room, and Maria heard low voices. A father and son saying goodnight in that shorthand that families develop, private language that belongs only to them. Maria walked back to her own suite, where Sophia was already in her new bed, surrounded by stuffed animals and fairy lights, looking like she belonged in this world of wealth and privilege. Mama? Sophia called when Maria entered. Is Dante going to be my brother now? What? No, mija. Why would you think that? Because you look at his dad the way you look at me sometimes. Like you want to protect him, but you're scared you can't. Maria's heart stopped. 6 years old. 6 years old and already reading emotional subtext like a book. It's complicated, baby. That's what grown-ups always say. Well, this time it's true. Now sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a big day. Every day here is going to be a big day, Sophia said wisely, then rolled over and closed her eyes. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work. So if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. Maria stood in the doorway, watching her daughter breathe in the soft glow of fairy lights, and tried not to think about Marco Rossi's eyes, about the way he looked at his son, about the fact that she was now living in the house of a man whose business she didn't understand and whose world she absolutely didn't belong in. 2 weeks, she reminded herself. Just 2 weeks. But even as she thought it, she knew she was lying. The first 3 days passed in a blur of adjustment. Sophia adapted to her new tutor with the easy flexibility of childhood. Maria's mother thrived under the constant medical attention, her color improving, her spirits lifting. And Maria found herself falling into a routine she hadn't expected. Mornings with Dante, teaching him to cook simple things in the massive kitchen, watching him gain confidence with each successful pancake flip. Afternoons with Sophia, exploring the grounds under the watchful eyes of security. Evenings reading to Dante while Marco worked in his study, the sound of his voice drifting down the hallway. It felt dangerously close to normal. On the 4th morning, Maria woke to find her phone flooded with notifications. She'd been ignoring social media, but something made her check. The video had been shared by a major news network, an interview request from Good Morning America, a trending hashtag, number justice for Maria. Apparently, the internet had decided she was a hero, being persecuted by the rich and powerful. They weren't entirely wrong. Maria was scrolling through the comments, alternating between heartwarming support and vicious attacks, when someone knocked on her door. Come in, Vincent entered, his expression serious. We need to talk. Mr. Rossi wants you in his study. Maria's stomach dropped. What happened? Your ex-husband made contact. He knows you're here. The world tilted. Maria grabbed the doorframe to steady herself. How? He has connections we didn't anticipate. Come. Marco will explain everything. Maria followed Vincent downstairs, her heart hammering against her ribs. She'd been so careful, changed her name, moved across the country, stayed invisible, but Marco Delgado was like a cockroach, impossible to kill, always surviving, always finding ways to crawl back into her life. Marco was standing by the window in his study, his posture rigid. When he turned, his expression was controlled, but Maria could see the anger simmering beneath. Sit down, he said, not unkindly. Maria sat. Vincent positioned himself by the door. Marco pulled up his phone and showed her a screenshot. It was a text message from an unknown number. I know she's with you. Tell Maria she can't hide from me. Tell her Sophia misses her daddy. Maria's hands started shaking. He's lying. Sophia doesn't remember him. She was 4 when we left. She barely... I know, Marco interrupted. This is intimidation. He's trying to scare you, make you think he has more power than he does. Does he? Marco was quiet for a moment. He's working with someone who knows about my family, about this estate, about our security protocols. Who? We're still determining that. But Maria, I need you to tell me everything about him, everything you haven't told me. Because if I'm going to protect you and Sophia, I need to know exactly what we're dealing with. Maria closed her eyes. She'd spent 2 years trying to forget, 2 years building walls around those memories. Now she had to tear them down. His name is Marco Delgado. We met when I was 25, working night shifts in a Miami ER. He was charming at first, romantic, attentive, all the things that feel like love when you're young and tired and lonely. She opened her eyes, staring at a point on the wall behind Marco's head. It was easier than looking at his face. We got married after 6 months. I got pregnant a year later, and that's when everything changed. He started drinking, getting angry, saying I'd trapped him, that Sophia ruined his life. Maria's voice cracked. The first time he hit me, he apologized for weeks, brought me flowers, promised it would never happen again. But it did, Marco said quietly. It always does. It got worse after Sophia was born. He'd disappear for days, come back drunk or high or both. I'd find pills, needles, God knows what else. I tried to leave twice. Once he found me at my sister's. Once he tracked me to a women's shelter. Both times he convinced me to come back. Said he'd change. Said he'd get help. What made you finally leave for good? Maria's hands clenched into fists. He put Sophia in the hospital. She was 4. He was drunk, arguing with me about money. She got between us, trying to protect me, and he shoved her. She hit the corner of the table, fractured her skull. The room went silent. Even Vincent, who'd probably heard worse, looked shaken. I called the police from the hospital, Maria continued. Got a restraining order, filed for divorce. But Marco has family connections in Miami. His brother runs with some dangerous people. Guns, drugs, the kind of business that makes judges look the other way. So you ran, Marco said. I ran, changed our names, changed our lives, and it worked. For 2 years we were safe. Until I showed up in that stupid video. Marco moved to the chair across from her, close enough that she could see the intensity in his eyes. He's not going to touch you, or Sophia. I promise you that. You can't promise that. You don't know him. He's like a poison. He gets into everything, ruins everything. I know men like him. I've dealt with worse than your ex-husband. Marco's voice was cold, dangerous. He's a small-time criminal with addiction problems and an inflated sense of power. The only reason he's a threat is because he caught us off guard. That ends now. What are you going to do? What I do best. Eliminate threats. The way he said it made Maria's blood run cold. You can't kill him. I'm not going to kill him. I'm going to make him wish he'd never heard your name. Marco pulled out his phone and made a call. Tony? The situation we discussed. Move forward. Yes, all of it. I want him to understand exactly who he's dealing with. He hung up and looked at Maria. By tonight, Marco Delgado will have bigger problems than finding you. His dealer will cut him off. His brother's operation will suddenly have police attention. Every door he's used to walking through will close in his face. And if he tries to come near you, if he even thinks about Sophia, he'll disappear so completely that no one will remember he existed. Maria should have been horrified, should have argued that violence wasn't the answer, but all she felt was relief, overwhelming, exhausting relief. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me. This is what family does. And whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, you're family now. That afternoon, Maria found Dante in the library, struggling with algebra homework. His tutor had left him with a worksheet that might as well have been written in ancient Greek. Need help? Maria asked. Dante looked up, frustration clear on his face. I hate math. I'm terrible at it. You're not terrible. You just need a different approach. Maria sat beside him and looked at the problems. Okay, let's try something. Instead of thinking about numbers, think about Harry Potter. What? Seriously, you have 7 Horcruxes. You destroy 3. How many are left? Dante's face lit up with understanding. 4. Exactly. Math is just problem solving with different languages. Let's translate. They worked through the entire worksheet together, converting abstract numbers into tangible scenarios. Quidditch scores, spell ingredients, the number of stairs in Hogwarts. By the end, Dante was solving problems independently, his confidence visibly growing. You're a really good teacher, he said when they finished. I'm a really good translator. There's a difference. Dad said you used to be a nurse. Why did you stop? Maria hesitated. She'd learned that Dante responded better to honesty than platitudes. Because I needed to disappear, and nurses leave paper trails, so I became invisible instead. That sounds lonely. It was, but it kept me and Sophia safe. Dante. He was quiet for a moment, his fingers drumming against his wheelchair. Do you think my mom felt lonely? Before the accident? The question came out of nowhere, but Maria recognized it for what it was, a 12-year-old boy trying to understand loss. "Tell me about her," Maria said. "She was beautiful. And funny. She'd make Dad laugh. Like really laugh. Not the polite kind. She used to read to me every night, even when I got too old for it." Dante's voice went soft. "The accident was my fault." Maria's heart stopped. "Dante, no. It was. We were going to my friend's birthday party. I forgot my present. Mom turned around to go back home. That's when the truck hit us. If I hadn't forgotten, if I just remembered, stop." Maria's voice was firm but gentle. She wheeled his chair around to face her. "Listen to me very carefully. Accidents are called accidents because no one planned them. No one wanted them. They just happen. And the only person responsible for that truck hitting your car was the person driving the truck. But I forgot. You were 9 years old. 9-year-olds forget things. That's normal. That's human. What happened to your mother, what happened to you, it's not your fault. It's not anyone's fault except the person who ran that red light." Tears were streaming down Dante's face now. "Then why do I feel so guilty?" "Because you loved her. Because you miss her. Because grief is complicated and it needs somewhere to go, so we turn it into blame. But Dante, your mother wouldn't want you carrying this. She'd want you to be happy. To heal. To live." "How do you know?" "Because I'm a mother. And there's nothing in this world that mothers want more than for their children to be okay." Dante collapsed forward, his shoulders shaking with sobs that sounded like they'd been trapped for 3 years. Maria pulled him close, let him cry into her shoulder, and made soothing sounds that had no words. She didn't hear Marco enter the library. Didn't know. He was there until she looked up and saw him standing in the doorway, his hand pressed against his mouth, his eyes glistening. He'd heard everything. Marco left without a word, and Maria understood. Some moments were too raw to acknowledge. Sometimes you had to let people grieve in private, even when they were standing right in front of you. That night, after both children were asleep, Maria found herself unable to settle. She wandered down to the kitchen, thinking tea might help her racing mind. Marco was already there, sitting at the counter with a glass of whiskey, staring at nothing. "Can't sleep?" Maria asked. "Occupational hazard. You?" "Too much thinking." She moved to the kettle, filled it with water. "Want some tea?" "I have whiskey." "Tea is better for insomnia. Whiskey is better for guilt." Maria paused, then grabbed a second mug. She prepared 2 cups of chamomile, set one in front of Marco, and sat beside him. They drank in silence for a few minutes. "I heard what you told Dante," Marco finally said. "About the accident, about blame. I'm sorry. I should have asked before." "No, you were right. All of it. I've had 3 therapists tell me the same thing, and I never believed them. But hearing you say it, watching Dante finally let it out." Marco's voice broke. "He's been carrying that for 3 years. And I didn't know. I didn't see it. You were grieving too. Sometimes we're so busy surviving our own pain that we miss other people's." Marco turned to face her, his expression raw. "I loved my wife. Loved her completely. And when she died, something in me died too. I threw myself into work, into protecting Dante, into building walls so high that nothing could hurt us again. But I forgot that protection and connection aren't the same thing. I kept him safe, but I made him lonely. You did the best you could." "Did I? Or did I just take the easy way? Hire therapists, buy equipment, throw money at the problem instead of actually showing up?" Maria sipped her tea, considering her words carefully. "You showed up today. When you heard him crying, you could have interrupted, could have made it about you. But you let him have his moment. That's showing up. You did that. Not me. I started it. You'll finish it. Because now you know what he needs. And you strike me as a man who gets what he sets his mind to." Marco's laugh was hollow. "Is that a compliment or an insult?" "Both." They sat in comfortable silence, drinking tea that neither of them really wanted. Outside, security lights illuminated the grounds. Somewhere in the distance, an owl called. "Can I ask you something?" Marco said. "Depends on the question. Why didn't you leave? After the first time your ex hit you, you're smart, capable, strong. Why stay?" Maria had been asked this question 100 times. By therapists, by shelter counselors, by her sister. The answer was always the same. Because leaving is dangerous. Because I had nowhere to go. Because I thought I could fix him. Because I was ashamed. Because I loved him. Or thought I did. Or couldn't tell the difference anymore. She paused. Because women like me don't have the luxury of your kind of protection. We don't have security teams and lawyers and resources. We have minimum wage jobs and maxed out credit cards, and the choice between staying with a man who hurts us or being homeless with a child. Marco flinched. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be better. When you see women in situations like I was in, don't ask why they stayed. Ask why we live in a world that makes staying seem like the only option. Is that why you helped Dante? Because you know what it's like to be trapped? Maria considered this. Maybe. Or maybe I just couldn't stand by and watch someone suffer when I had the power to help. Even if that power was just my body between him and danger, that's the definition of courage. No, that's the definition of exhaustion. Courage is what comes after, when you keep showing up even though you're scared. Marco studied her for a long moment. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? I don't know. Someone grateful, maybe. Deferential. Someone who'd take the protection and ask no questions. Sorry to disappoint. You didn't. You surprised me. There's a difference. The air between them had shifted, become charged with something Maria didn't want to name. She stood abruptly. I should get to bed. Long day tomorrow. Maria. Marco's voice stopped her at the door. Thank you. For what you did today. For Dante. For seeing what I couldn't. You're welcome. But Marco? Start seeing it yourself. That boy needs his father, not his protector. Learn the difference. She left before he could respond, her heart racing for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. The peace lasted 6 more days, 6 days of routine instability and the dangerous illusion of safety. Then everything exploded. It started with a phone call. Marco in his study, door closed, voice rising in anger. Then Vincent moving through the house with urgency, gathering security, making calls. Maria found Dante in the library, looking scared. I'll read the uploaded file and provide a comprehensive summary. Number, summary. Maria Santos's journey from invisibility to purpose. This narrative follows Maria Santos, a single mother and domestic violence survivor, whose spontaneous act of defending a bullied child catalyzes a complete transformation of her life and leads her from desperation to empowerment. Maria's story begins with a pivotal moment at a charity event 2 weeks prior to the opening scene. There, she witnesses 3 teenage boys bullying Dante, a 12-year-old boy in a wheelchair, and son of Marco Rossi, a powerful and wealthy man. While dozens of influential people stand by passively, Maria intervenes to defend the child. This act of courage is captured on video and goes viral, upending her carefully reconstructed life. The viral attention brings devastating consequences. Death threats, job loss, and most dangerously, her violent ex-husband discovers her location after she had successfully hidden from him for 2 years. Marco Rossi responds to Maria's predicament by offering protection, bringing Maria, her daughter Sofia, and her elderly mother into his heavily secured estate. This decision sparks media speculation and conspiracy theories, with critics suggesting Maria is a gold digger or using the child to infiltrate a criminal organization. To address these accusations, Marco holds a press conference where both he and Maria speak publicly about the true circumstances of their arrangement. At the press conference, Maria delivers a powerful statement asserting her identity and motivations. She declares herself simply as someone who couldn't walk away when a child needed help, emphasizing that teaching her daughter about the importance of kindness and standing up for others is worth any personal cost. Though terrified, her genuine fear makes her testimony more credible and relatable. The press conference triggers an explosion of public response. The internet divides sharply, with half supporting Maria as brave and genuine, while the other half doubles down on conspiracy theories, claiming the entire event was staged. Marco's lawyers engage in damage control through cease and desist letters, defamation lawsuits, and strategic media management, but public opinion proves difficult to control. The media circus takes a psychological toll on Dante, who withdraws and becomes increasingly isolated. The attention triggers painful memories of the accident that killed his mother and left him wheelchair-bound, reminding him of being treated as a spectacle rather than a person. Maria recognizes these warning signs and reaches out to him with compassion and patience. In a crucial conversation, Dante reveals he's been carrying misplaced guilt. He had blamed himself for his mother's death because he forgot his birthday present, causing her to turn the car around, but now realizes the truck that hit them was at fault, not him. However, he's developed new guilt about the media attention affecting Maria, blaming himself simply for being who he is, the son of a powerful man whose identity makes him a target. Maria delivers a profound message that becomes central to the story's themes. She insists that Dante is not a weapon or tool to be used against his father, but simply a 12-year-old boy who deserves a normal life with friends and hobbies. She emphasizes that his father's choices, business dealings, reputation, and enemies belong to Marco alone, not to Dante. Anyone who tries to use Dante for their own purposes is the problem, not the child himself. Marco, who has been listening to this conversation, reveals his own vulnerability. He confesses to Maria that after his wife's death, he lost his translator, the person who helped him understand how to connect with his son emotionally. He had become Dante's protector but forgotten how to be his father, focusing on security rather than emotional presence. Maria counsels Marco with simple but powerful advice. Just show up, be honest, and let Dante see his father's fear and vulnerability. She argues that pretending to be invincible doesn't protect Dante, it only teaches him to pretend as well. She assures Marco that it's never too late to become the parent his child needs. In a moment of intimacy, Maria shares her own coping mechanism. She maintains strength for Sofia's sake but falls apart in the shower where no one can hear. This admission of vulnerability creates a deeper connection between Maria and Marco, demonstrating that true strength isn't the absence of fear, but the ability to pull yourself together and show up again the next day. The narrative jumps forward 6 months to reveal profound changes. Maria has launched the Safe Harbor Foundation, a nonprofit funded by the Rossi family but independently run by Maria. The foundation provides comprehensive services for domestic violence survivors, including legal services, temporary housing, and job training. Within just 3 months of operation, the foundation has helped 47 families. The Chicago Tribune features Maria's success story, documenting her journey from viral video to nonprofit founder. Maria works tirelessly in her office, surrounded by thank you cards from clients, each representing a life changed, and a woman who found the courage to leave an abusive relationship. Marco and Maria's relationship has evolved into a genuine partnership based on mutual respect and understanding. Marco regularly brings her lunch when she forgets to eat, demonstrating care without control. Their relationship represents a stark contrast to Maria's previous experience of domestic violence, showing her what partnership looks like when based on respect rather than power and control. Dante is thriving as well, applying to high schools with strong disability support programs. Sofia has discovered a passion for photography. The family Maria accidentally built is flourishing together. In a powerful moment of vindication, Maria receives an unexpected apology from Senator Morrison, father of one of the boys who bullied Dante. The senator acknowledges that pride and his son's hurt feelings clouded his judgment. He praises Maria's courage in the garden and the remarkable work she's built since, sending a $50,000 donation to Safe Harbor Foundation. This reconciliation demonstrates how Maria's actions helped the Morrison family learn that actions have consequences, turning even former antagonists into supporters. In a deeply symbolic gesture, Marco gives Maria a key, not an engagement ring, but something more meaningful at this stage of their relationship. The key opens the foundation building, the house, the car, and represents unlimited freedom. Marco explicitly states that Maria is not trapped. She's choosing to stay. The key symbolizes that her freedom is non-negotiable and that staying is a choice, not a cage crucial for someone who fled domestic violence. They discuss hypothetical future proposals, with Maria acknowledging she might say yes when the time comes. Marco suggests it would happen somewhere meaningful, like the garden where everything started, or the library where she reads to Dante. The story explores several profound themes. It examines how the simplest acts of kindness can create profound transformations, how defending a stranger can mean defending your own future, and how the scariest thing can sometimes be staying instead of running. Maria's journey is one from invisibility to visibility, from powerlessness to purpose. The woman who once scrubbed toilets while hiding from her past now runs a nonprofit and receives apologies from senators. She's transformed pain, fear, and anger into something that helps others escape the same dangers she fled. The narrative also explores the corruption of power versus protective power. Marco represents the possibility that not all power corrupts. Some power protects and builds. His relationship with Maria demonstrates that true strength includes vulnerability, that protection doesn't require control, and that giving someone freedom can be the greatest gift. Importantly, she's built a life she never imagined but somehow earned. Her act of defending Dante, simply seeing a child who needed help and refusing to look away, became the catalyst for defending her own future and the futures of dozens of other women and families. The narrative ultimately celebrates the transformative power of compassion, the possibility of healing from trauma, and the profound truth that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is not flee from danger, but stay and build something meaningful from our scars. Maria Santos is no longer invisible. She's exactly where she belongs. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.